She heard her husband say she was the wrong woman. She was standing right above him. Emma Davis is 31, black, beautiful, a cultural translator married into one of Seoul's oldest names. She wears a cream midi dress this morning, a thin gold chain, nude pumps she chose with shaking hands. She dressed to be loved today. Her husband is Han Jae-min, they call him Ash. Charcoal suit, steel watch, a black Korean dragon inked up the right side of his neck, its head resting under his jaw. He is the boss of a mafia family that owns half of Cheongdam-dong. He has not looked at her over breakfast in weeks. She asks about a name on his phone. He tells her not everything is about her. To fix it, he offers the mall. Marble floors, Chanel windows, a glass elevator between 2 floors. In the elevator, she reaches for his hand. He pulls away. He lies about the phone. They separate at the atrium. She goes up. He goes to the bathroom. Minutes later, she stands at the mezzanine railing looking for him. She finds him below, standing too close to a platinum blonde in ivory. She loops the mezzanine. She slips behind a marble column. The music thins out. She can hear every word. She only needs to hear one thing, just one. But what she hears next. Before starting the story, comment down below where you are watching from and what time it is there. If stories of karma, love, and hidden truths move you, leave a like, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and click join to become a member and help our channel. Emma set the second cup of coffee down on the marble island and slid it 2 inches toward the empty chair. She waited. The chair stayed empty. She pulled the cup back, wiped the ring of moisture with her thumb, and set it down again in the exact same spot. Seoul was already awake behind the glass wall of the penthouse. She was not. The eggs on the pan had gone from soft to rubber in the time it took her to decide whether to call his name a second time. She didn't call. Jae-min walked in barefoot, phone in his left hand, screen turned away from her. He didn't look up. He crossed to the coffee, took the cup she'd pushed toward his chair, and drank, standing. "Sit down," she said. She said it the way she'd learned to say it. Soft enough to be ignored, clear enough to be heard if he wanted to hear it. He sat. He set the phone face down on the counter. His thumb kept resting on it, like a hand on a leash. "The eggs are cold," she said. She said it like an apology. "It's fine." He didn't eat. He drank. He looked out at the skyline the way a man looks at a schedule. Emma watched the muscle in his jaw work through the coffee and told herself that she had made this thing before, this exact plate, and he had eaten it, and he had kissed the top of her head afterward, and that had been 11 months ago, and she remembered the date. She reached across the marble. "Baby." Her fingers touched the back of his hand. He didn't pull away. He didn't turn it over either. His hand stayed a hand. Her hand stayed on top of it. 2 objects on a counter. The phone lit up. He glanced at it. He turned it over so she couldn't see the name. The name had 4 letters. She had seen the last one before he flipped it. An A. The way it was written, tall and thin, was a name a woman would save herself as. "Who's Yuna?" She said it before she meant to say it. The word slipped out with the same tone she used for the eggs, soft enough to be ignored. He didn't ignore it. He set the coffee down. He turned his head slowly, the way you turn to a child who has broken something you care about, and he looked at her like he was already tired of the answer. "Not everything," he said, "is about you, Emma." The kitchen kept its shape, the eggs kept their coldness, the city kept moving 38 floors below. Something inside her chest, small and specific, unhooked itself and dropped. She smiled. She smiled because the alternative was to lay her forehead on the marble and stay there. She smiled with her mouth closed, and she pulled her hand back, and she wrapped both hands around her own cup like a woman who had come in from outside. "Okay," she said. He watched her smile. He watched her hands go around the cup. Something in his face moved. The smallest of shifts, a man realizing he had swung the hammer a little harder than the nail required, and then it locked back into its neutral line. He picked up the phone. He put it in his pocket. He stood. "Get dressed," he said. He said it gently now. He said it like a man offering a bandage after he had opened the cut himself. "The mall. Cheongdam. I'll take you." She nodded to her coffee. "Both of us," he said, softer. "You and me." She nodded again. She heard herself say, "Okay, baby." She heard the word baby land on the counter next to the cold eggs and stay there. He left the kitchen. She heard the bedroom door. She heard the shower. She stayed on the stool with both hands around her cup, and she did not cry, because she had decided, 3 months ago, in this same kitchen, that she would not cry in front of his coffee anymore. She got off the stool. She walked to the bedroom, and she opened the closet with the same care she used to open a hospital chart. She chose the cream midi, fitted at the waist, soft at the neckline. She had bought it for their 2nd anniversary. She had worn it once. She laid it on the bed the way you lay out a suit for a funeral you plan to survive. She stood in front of the mirror in her slip. She looked at her own shoulders. She rolled them back. She lifted her chin. She said one sentence to the woman in the mirror, and she said it under her breath, because saying it out loud would have made her hear her own voice, and she couldn't afford to hear her own voice yet. "Today I choose to love him again." The woman in the mirror did not answer. The woman in the mirror looked at her the way strangers look at each other across a subway car. She dressed, slowly. The dress went on and lay against her hips the way it was cut to lie. She fastened the delicate gold chain at the back of her neck, and she settled the small pendant into the hollow above her collarbone, in the exact center of her chest, because he had once said, at a hotel in Busan 2 years ago, that the pendant sat there like it had been drawn on her by a jeweler with a pencil. She had held on to that sentence. She still had it. She used it now like a coin she kept in her shoe. Nude stilettos, small diamond studs, the camel handbag with the structured spine. She looked at herself again. She was beautiful. She noted it the way you note the weather, without feeling. She was beautiful, and she was 31, and she was standing in the bedroom of a man who had just told her, without meaning to, and while completely meaning to, that not everything was about her. She picked up the handbag. She heard the shower stop. She walked to the living room, and she sat on the edge of the sofa with her knees together and her feet flat on the floor, and she waited for her husband the way a job applicant waits in a lobby. He came out of the bedroom in the charcoal suit, black shirt, top button open, no tie. The overcoat draped over one arm because he never wore it. He only carried it, as if the weight were something he had chosen to hold for a friend. His watch caught the light. His wedding band caught the light. The dragon on his neck caught the light and did not release it. He looked at her. He looked at the dress. He looked at the pendant. For a half second, something in his face went young. "You look nice," he said. She heard the nice. She heard the word nice, the way a musician hears a wrong note. "Thank you." He held out his hand. She took it. His hand was warm. It was her husband's hand. She kept her fingers loose inside his, the way you hold something that might still be alive. The elevator down was silent. The lobby was silent. The driver held the rear door of the black sedan and did not say good morning, because Jaemin did not accept good mornings from drivers. She slid across the leather. He followed. The door shut. The car pulled into the Gangnam morning. Ji-woo was in the front passenger seat. She had not seen him get in. She never did. Ji-woo, the underboss, the man with the scar through the eyebrow, existed in cars the way weather existed in the sky. She saw the back of his buzz cut, and the black earpiece, and the black gloves resting on his thigh, and she nodded to the back of his head, and he nodded to the windshield. Jaemin took his phone out. He turned it so the screen faced his own leg. Emma watched the back of Ji-woo's head. She counted the traffic lights between the penthouse and Cheongdam-dong. 4. She had counted them before. There were always 4. Today there would be 4 again. She held on to the fact of 4 the way a person on a boat holds on to the horizon. At the second light, Jaemin's hand landed on her thigh, just above the knee. The weight of the hand was familiar. The placement was familiar. The timing, right after a thing he had said that he shouldn't have said, was familiar. She looked at the hand. She placed her own hand over his. She kept it there. He kept his there. It was, for 11 blocks, a marriage. The mall rose out of the block like a wall of light. White marble, Chanel in one window, Cartier in the other. A doorman in a slim black suit lifted a gloved hand to the sedan and did not lower it until the car had stopped. Jaemin got out first. He came around. He opened her door before the driver could. He offered his hand. She took it. His hand was warm again. Cameras flashed somewhere, not for them. For a woman getting out of a car 3 spots down. Emma noticed anyway. She noticed the flash, and she noticed that Jaemin's hand tightened, briefly, around hers, not for the camera, for himself, and then loosened. They walked in. The atrium was 2 stories. The ceiling was glass. Above them, the Seoul sky was doing its late morning white. The escalators moved in slow diagonals. Music played the way expensive music always plays, like a rumor. The floor was so polished that when she looked down, she could see the pendant at her throat reflected between her feet. Jaemin steered her by the small of her back. At the Cartier window, he stopped. He looked at the display. He looked at her. "You want anything?" She heard the sentence for what it was. Not a question, a payment. She looked at the case. The bracelets glittered. She looked at her husband. His eyes were on the window. His mouth was neutral. His phone was in his pocket. His pocket vibrated. He didn't check it. He kept his eyes on the case. His pocket vibrated again. "No," she said. "I don't need anything." Something in his shoulders, not relief. The absence of the muscle that would have paid. A man who had held out his wallet and was allowed to put it away. They walked on. She wanted, for a stupid second, to make him buy the bracelet, to watch him unclip it and clasp it around her wrist himself, to have the metal on her skin all day and to look at it, later, in the bathroom, when he was not there, and to hate it. She didn't say anything. She kept walking. The heels of the nude stilettos made a small, quick sound on the marble that was steady and did not shake. At the base of the escalator, he stopped. He looked up at the second floor. His hand slid off her back. "I'll be right there," he said. He pointed vaguely across the atrium, to the corridor with the men's bathroom sign. 2 minutes. She nodded. "Go up," he said. "There's that boutique you like. On the 2nd floor. The one with the... I know. I'll find you." She looked at him. He was already turning. His phone was already in his hand. He was already walking. "Jaemin." He turned back, half-turned, the way a man turns when he has already left. She had 2 things she could say. The first was, "Who is Yuna?" The second was, "I love you." She had said both of them this week already, and both of them had been paid for, and both of them had been returned to sender. She said neither. "Take your time," she said. He nodded. He walked. His overcoat swung once against his leg. His pocket vibrated again. He answered the call before he reached the corridor. She watched the black-suited back of her husband turn a corner behind a marble column and go somewhere she was not. She stood at the base of the escalator. She put her right hand on the moving rail. She stepped on. The escalator carried her up. The atrium opened underneath her. The glass ceiling opened above her. She rose between them the way a person rises through water when they have stopped kicking. Her reflection floated in the polished side panel. Cream dress, dark hair, pendant, hand on the rail, mouth closed. She did not look at her reflection. She looked at the top of the escalator. She counted the seconds it would take to arrive. She stepped off. The boutique she liked was to the right. She turned right. She walked. Her heels found the marble again, and the marble answered. At the boutique, she pushed the glass door. A saleswoman in black slacks smiled at her, the way saleswomen smile at women who arrive alone. She smiled back. She said, in the careful, half-Korean she had built over 3 years, just looking. The saleswoman gave her space. Emma walked the perimeter of the boutique. She touched a silk scarf. She touched a cashmere sleeve. She lifted a small paper bag with the store's logo before she had bought anything, as if the bag itself were the thing she had come for. She stopped at the window. She looked down through the boutique glass and through the boutique's second glass wall and into the atrium below. She found him. Her husband was not in the bathroom corridor. He was near the fountain at the center of the atrium. He was not alone. The woman was tall, slim, ivory suit, platinum bob, glass straight, cut at the collarbone. Even from up here, Emma could see the mole under the left eye, a small black dot that read, from this distance, like punctuation. Her husband was standing too close to her. Not lover close, worse than lover close. He was standing the way men stand, with women they have already stopped needing to seduce. Casual, old, familiar. His body angled a half-degree toward the woman, the way a compass angles toward north whether you want it to or not. Yuna. Emma's hand tightened around the paper bag. The paper made a small, dry sound. She did not look away. Down in the atrium, her husband did something with his mouth that she had not seen him do at breakfast. He smiled. A small, closed smile. The smile of a man who had been about to speak, and instead had decided to let the woman across from him finish. The woman in ivory laughed. Emma couldn't hear it. She could see the head tilt, the throat move, the pale hand come up and touch her own collarbone. It was a small laugh, a private one. A laugh built for one listener. Emma stood at the second-floor window with the paper bag in one hand and her handbag in the other, and the pendant sitting in the exact center of her chest, and she watched her husband stand still while another woman laughed at whatever he had just said. She turned from the window. She walked out of the boutique, slowly. The saleswoman said something behind her that she did not hear. The mezzanine ran along the edge of the atrium, in a long marble curve. She followed it. She kept close to the inner rail. She did not look down again yet. She kept walking until the ambient music thinned, until she could hear her own heels more than the piano, until the corridor curved behind a wide marble column, and the sightline from the atrium below was cut in half by the column's shadow. She stopped. She stepped behind the column. She put her back against the marble. It was cold through the cream dress. She let it be cold. Below her, very close now, closer than the ceiling music, she heard her husband's voice. He was speaking Korean, low, the way he spoke when he did not want a driver to hear. And then a woman's voice, soft, precise, careless. She pressed her palm flat against the column. She listened. The marble was cold against her cheek. Emma stayed there a breath longer than she meant to, the small paper bag from the boutique dangling from 2 fingers, the tissue paper inside crinkling every time her ribs moved. She had bought a silk scarf she did not want. She had let the saleswoman fold it into the bag, because leaving without buying anything felt, in that moment, like another kind of failure. She had walked out of the boutique with the bag balanced against her hip, and she had drifted, without deciding to drift, toward the mezzanine railing. She had wanted to find him from above. That was all. Just to see him waiting for her. Just to see him tap his phone against his thigh the way he did when he was bored. Just to remember he was hers before she went down the escalator and folded herself back into the day. She saw him. He was standing near the fountain on the ground floor, not near the men's room he had lied about. He was standing with his back 3/4 turned to the mezzanine, his charcoal overcoat folded once over his arm, the black dial of his watch catching light every time he shifted. The dragon on his neck moved when he swallowed. Emma had memorized the movement of that dragon in 3 years of marriage. She could have picked it out in a crowd of 1,000 men. The woman standing in front of him was not a stranger. She was too close for a stranger. She was standing inside the space Jamin guarded around his body, the way soldiers guard a border. Emma had watched him step back from clients, from cousins, from waiters. He never let anyone stand that close. This woman was standing that close, and he was not stepping back. Ivory suit, blunt bob the color of bleached bone, a small clutch tucked under one arm like a folded letter. Emma's hand tightened on the railing. She told herself to breathe. She told herself she was a jealous wife inventing a scene. She told herself that Jamin was polite, and businesses were businesses, and Cheongdam-dong was full of women in ivory suits who had reason to speak to men in charcoal coats. Then Jamin laughed. Not a client laugh, not the closed-mouth exhale he used with strangers. A real laugh. Head tipped back 1/4 inch, the sound short and low, the corners of his mouth pulling into a shape Emma had not seen on his face in 6 months. It was the laugh he used to give her when she said something he had not seen coming. He had stopped giving her that laugh. She had not known he still owned it. The paper bag dropped to her feet. She caught it on the second bounce. She caught it before anyone below looked up. She stepped back from the railing. She needed to hear. The mezzanine curved in a soft arc around the atrium. Emma walked, not fast, not slow, the nude pumps making no sound on the pale stone. She kept the wall on her right. She counted columns. The 3rd column, the one near the closed side entrance where the piped music thinned to almost nothing, sat on a corner where the atrium below opened into a smaller alcove. Sound travels up through architecture the way water travels down through stone. She had learned that in a museum once, on a trip Jamin had taken her on, the year they got married, when he still walked half a step behind her so she could set the pace. She slid behind the column. She pressed her spine against the marble. The stone drank the heat out of her shoulders. She turned her ear toward the atrium and closed her eyes. The woman's voice came first. "You still wear it," the woman said. English, faintly accented, the vowels rounded by years in a place that was not Seoul. Even now. A pause, a short one, then Jamin's voice, low, careful. "It's a ring, Yuna. It's not a memorial. Yuna." Emma's stomach folded once, cleanly, the way a napkin folds when someone is finished with a meal. She had asked him about a Yuna once, 2 weeks ago. He had scrolled past a name on his phone at breakfast, and the name had been Yuna, and she had asked him who Yuna was, and he had told her Yuna was a client's assistant, and he had turned the phone face down on the marble counter, and he had asked her, in the tone he used for closing a file, whether she wanted more coffee. Yuna was not a client's assistant. "I'm not asking you to take it off," Yuna said. "I'm asking you if you remember what you promised before you put it on." Jamin did not answer. Emma pressed her palm harder against the column. She could feel her own pulse in the pad of her thumb. She could feel it in the small hollow above her collarbone. She could feel it behind her eyes. "I remember what I promised," Jamin said finally. "I keep promises, Yuna. That's why we don't work." Something in Emma's chest lifted 1/4 inch. That was almost the right sentence. That was almost the sentence a husband was supposed to say when a woman named Yuna appeared in a mall and asked him about his ring. "You keep promises," Yuna repeated, slow, testing the taste of it. "That's a story you tell yourself. It's a story I live by. Then why are you standing here?" Silence. The kind of silence that is a piece of dialogue. Emma opened her eyes. She looked at the pattern of veins in the marble under her hand. Gray, gold, something that might have been rust. She traced one vein with her thumbnail. She kept tracing it while Jaemin did not answer the woman named Yuna. "I came because you asked me to come," he said at last. His voice had dropped half a step. He was speaking now with the register he used at home, late at night, when he did not want the housekeeper to hear. "I came because you said it was urgent." "It is urgent." "Then say what's urgent and let me go." Yuna laughed. It was not Jaemin's laugh. It was thinner. It had knives in it. "You're afraid of her," she said. "I'm not afraid of anyone. You're afraid of what she'll do if she knows I sat across from you for one coffee. She won't know." The 4 words landed inside Emma's chest like small stones dropped one by one into a well. She won't know, she won't know, she won't know, she won't know. She counted them on the pattern in the marble. 4 veins, 4 stones. The paper bag slipped again. She caught it against her thigh. "Jaemin," Yuna said. Her voice had changed. It was softer now, and softer was worse. "Do you love her?" Emma stopped breathing. She heard the small mechanical hush of the escalator on the far side of the atrium. She heard a child laugh 2 floors down. She heard the almost music the mall piped through hidden speakers, and she heard her own heart, and she heard Jaemin inhale once and let the breath out slowly through his nose, the way he did before he said something he had rehearsed. "Sometimes," he said, "I think I married the wrong woman." The column caught Emma before her knees did. She slid down it. She slid down it the way water slides down glass, without deciding to fall, without deciding to stop, the marble scraping the length of her spine through the fitted cream midi dress, the small pendant on her chest tapping once against her collarbone. Her hand went to her mouth. She clamped her palm over her lips. She pressed until her teeth cut the inside of her cheek. She tasted iron. She did not make a sound. "You don't mean that," Yuna said. "Not a question. An invitation." "She breaks over nothing," Jaemin said. He said it the way a man says something he has said inside his own head for months. He said it the way a confession sounds when it has been rehearsed against a bathroom mirror. "She reads meanings into a sentence I said in a hallway. She turns a canceled dinner into a divorce court. Being married to her is walking on glass." Emma stopped hearing individual words after that. Something in the sound became weather, something in her ears filled with a low, steady tone that pushed them all away by half a meter. She felt the marble against her shoulder blades. She felt the tissue paper in the boutique bag crinkling against her ribs. She felt the cool metal of the pendant her husband had bought her 2 anniversaries ago, resting against her sternum, cold now, colder than the stone, walking on glass. He had used that phrase before. In a fight, 6 weeks ago, she had asked him why he never told her when he would be home for dinner, and he had told her she was walking on glass, and she had laughed at him and told him she was walking on glass because he had put the glass there. He had remembered the phrase. He had saved it. He had taken it out for a woman named Yuna, in an ivory suit, standing 3/4 of a meter closer to him than any stranger should stand. "Then leave her," Yuna said. Jaemin did not answer. Emma opened her eyes. The atrium ceiling arched pale above her, glass panels sectioned by white steel ribs, the sole sky flat and gray beyond. She looked at it because she needed something that was not marble, and not the piece of paper she could hear Yuna unfolding below. "Take this," Yuna said. "Don't read it now, read it tonight." "What is it?" "Keep it. You'll understand." The sound of paper folding once more, small and precise. The soft click of Yuna's clutch opening and closing. The tap of pointed pumps on the atrium floor moving away, unhurried. The sound of a woman who had accomplished what she came to accomplish. Then Jaemin alone. Emma stayed on the floor. Her shoulders were shaking. She realized this only because she saw the paper bag on her lap moving. She was not crying. Her eyes were dry and burning. Her whole body was crying inside a skin that had not yet decided to release it. She pressed her palm flat against the column again. She used the column to push herself half upright. She did not stand. She could not stand. She stayed folded against the stone at the corner of the mezzanine, like a bird that had flown into a window and had not yet remembered how to lift its wings. She heard the whisper of fabric below as Jae-min slid the folded paper into the inside pocket of his charcoal jacket. She heard him breathe. She heard him breathe again. She heard him step once toward the fountain and stop. She heard him look up. She did not see him look up. She heard him look up. She heard the small pause in his breathing, the half-swallowed sound a man makes when the world he had been standing inside cracks in a place he did not know was load-bearing. His eyes had found her. She knew because his silence changed shape. Emma did not move. She was too far away for him to read her expression from below, but she knew he could see the hem of her cream midi dress against the pale marble. She knew he could see the boutique bag pressed against her thigh. She knew he could see the top of her hair, the center part, the loose front strand she had spent 9 minutes on that morning because she had told herself, in front of the bathroom mirror, that today she would choose to love him again. She heard him say her name. Just once, just the syllable, low, not a shout. He said it the way a man says a name when he wants the name not to have heard him. Emma. She closed her eyes. She counted to 3. She opened them. She pushed herself up the column with both hands. Her palms left twin prints of heat on the marble. She stood, and her knees held, and the small pendant settled against her sternum. She looked down over the railing. He was staring up. His face had gone the color of ash under the atrium light. His jaw was locked. His hand, the one holding the overcoat, had loosened. The coat was slipping. He caught it against his hip without looking at it. The dragon on his neck did not move. He was not swallowing. Emma looked at him. She let him see her look. She did not raise her hand. She did not shake her head. She did not open her mouth. She just looked. He took a step toward the escalator. She stepped back from the railing. The step back was the smallest thing she had done all morning. Her heel moved perhaps 10 centimeters, and yet Jae-min saw it, and something in his composure that had been hairline cracked already fully broke. He moved faster now, cutting across the atrium in 6 long strides, the overcoat swinging from his arm, the watch flashing once as it caught the light from the glass ceiling. The small paper Yuna had given him a rectangle in his jacket he had not yet had time to hide. Emma did not run. She turned. She smoothed the front of the cream midi dress with the flat of one palm. She lifted the boutique bag by its cord handle. She tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear, the way a woman tucks hair when she is about to speak to a stranger she needs something from. She began to walk toward the top of the escalator. Her steps were even. Her posture was upright. The elongated neck her mother had taught her to keep proud. The shoulders her aunt had taught her to keep loose. The collarbone she had spent 31 years learning to carry, as though it did not need anyone's approval. All of it fell into place, in the 6 meters between the column and the escalator. Below, Jae-min was already on the moving stairs. He was climbing them 2 at a time. His hand was reaching for the rubber rail. His face was still ash. His mouth was moving around a shape that might have been her name again, and might have been an apology he had not yet chosen the words for, and might have been the first line of a lie he was assembling as he climbed. Emma reached the top of the escalator before he reached the middle. She stopped there. She stood square. She let the boutique bag rest against her thigh. She waited. He arrived on the step below hers, still moving, his hand already extended toward her wrist, his mouth already forming the vowel of her name. She lifted one palm, just the palm, fingers together, between them. He stopped. His hand hung in the air between her body and his body, the plain platinum wedding band catching the same overhead light that had caught his watch a minute earlier. 2 floors below, a mall attendant paused halfway through wiping a glass balustrade. A woman with a stroller looked up from the ground floor. A teenager with a phone at the fountain turned the phone, without thinking about turning it, toward the two people frozen at the head of the escalator. Emma did not lower her palm. She looked at her husband over it. She let the silence carry the weight of what she had heard. The lens of the teenager's phone caught the small red pulse of the recording indicator. The boutique bag was almost weightless in Emma's hand, and that was the first thing that felt wrong. She had stood inside the store for 20 minutes. She had touched 3 silk scarves and asked the salesgirl about a fourth. She had chosen the one with the smallest print because Jae-min once said, busy fabric gave him a headache. She had paid without looking at the number on the reader. The paper bag came back to her folded once at the top, tied with a slim ribbon, so light it kept lifting on her wrist when she moved. 20 minutes and 1 silk scarf. That was all she had bought. She had gone in because the elevator had rejected her hand. She had come out because standing still in a store began to look like something the security cameras would remember. She stepped onto the marble of the mezzanine and pretended to check her phone. She was pretending for herself. There was no message. There would not be one. She scrolled anyway, thumb moving over the same 3 notifications from the morning. She let the screen tilt so the black glass caught the ceiling. Under the glass ceiling, the light was the color of old ivory. It sat on everything without warming it. She lifted her eyes off the screen and looked for him. 2 floors below, the atrium opened like a well. Chanel on the ground, Cartier across, a long marble bench in the middle, where old women sat with small dogs. She found the top of his head first. The undercut was easy. He was standing near the bench, but not sitting on it. His overcoat was still folded over his arm the way he had carried it in. He was not alone. Emma did not move for a second. She only registered the shape next to him. Ivory. A blazer nipped tight at the waist. Wide trousers falling clean over pointed nude pumps. A slim blonde bob, glass straight, cut at the collarbone. A woman she had never seen. A woman standing close enough to Jae-min that if he turned his shoulder, his sleeve would brush her wrist. She waited for the woman to step back. The woman did not step back. Emma felt the paper bag lift again on her wrist and lowered her arm. She walked. She walked along the mezzanine railing, the way any wife walks when she has just come out of a store. She kept her chin level. She kept her heels quiet on the marble. She did not lean over the railing. She did not stop to look. She let her eyes catch them only in passing, the way a stranger's eyes would. The blonde said something. Emma saw the mouth move, small and controlled. Jae-min tilted his head half a degree. The tilt was familiar. Emma had been on the receiving end of that tilt at 3 dinners with strangers. It was the tilt he gave when he was already listening, but did not want the other person to know how carefully. She kept walking. She reached the corner of the mezzanine where the railing turned, and the ambient music thinned into something almost inaudible. A marble column stood at the corner, thick as a tree, veined the color of tea. Behind it, a service door led to nowhere she would ever go. Between the column and the railing, a small triangle of floor received almost no foot traffic. A cleaner had left a folded velvet rope on the ground. Emma stopped. She did not decide to stop. Her shoes stopped, and she was inside the shoes, so she stopped. She stepped behind the column. Only her right shoulder and half her face could have been visible from below, and she pulled that half back too. The paper bag she pressed against her thigh so the crinkle would not travel. She stood there, in a cream midi dress in a corner where cream matched the marble, and she went still in a way she had not been still in years. From this angle, through the small opening between the column and the railing, she could see the top of Jae-min's head and the sleek line of the blonde's part. She could see the marble bench with the old women. She could see the fountain that never ran. She could see his hand at his side, half a fist, thumb rubbing the plain platinum band on his ring finger, the way he did when a phone call was not going his way. She could hear, too. She did not know how. Some trick of the atrium, some architectural fluke, some habit of the glass ceiling. Sound climbed the well and hit the corner where she stood and gathered there. She could hear the fountain not running. She could hear a stroller wheel 2 floors below. She could hear his breath as he inhaled to speak. Emma looked down at her hand on the bag. She thought, I only need to hear one thing. Just one. Any one thing that lets me go back down the escalator and put my hand in his and go home. Any one thing. She did not close her eyes. She kept them on the top of his head. He spoke. Yuna. That was the name. The name from the phone at breakfast. The name he had told her was a business contact. The name he had cut her open for, 3 hours ago, over cold breakfast, when he had said, not everything is about you. Emma's stomach did not drop. Something colder happened. The blood in her cheeks pulled back an inch under the skin. Her lips did not part. Her hand on the paper bag opened once and closed once. She stayed behind the column. Yuna, Jaemin said again, softer this time, and not soft in the way that would have hurt less. Soft in the way a man is soft when he is trying to keep the room from noticing what he is saying. You should not be here. The blonde laughed. It was a laugh built for a room, small and even, and finished before it began. Where should I be then? Not here. You picked the mall, Jaemin, not me. Emma pressed her palm flat against the column. The stone was cool. She fixed her eyes on the veining. She counted the veins she could see. 3, 4, 5. I picked the mall because my wife wanted to come. The blonde did not answer for a long second. When she did, her voice had dropped a note. And you brought me anyway. I did not bring you. You told me the floor. I told you the floor because you would not stop calling. So I would stop calling. Yes. Emma's shoulders dropped a full inch. She had not known they were up. Her breath came out through her nose in a long, thin thread. She let it. She kept her mouth closed. She thought, one thing. That was one thing. He had wanted her to stop calling. He had come to end it. He had told her the floor to end it. He had brought his wife to the mall because his wife had wanted to come. She could turn around. She could take the escalator down. She could find him. She could put her hand in his and pretend she had not just heard any of it, and later, in 3 weeks, in 3 months, when she was ready, she could ask him about a woman named Yuna, and he would tell her, and it would be smaller than this, and they would keep going. She almost moved. Her heel lifted a 1/4 inch off the marble. Then Yuna spoke again. You look tired, Jaemin. I am tired. She still doesn't sleep. Emma's heel settled back down. Her hand on the paper bag closed slowly. The bag folded in her fist without a sound. How would you know that? Because you don't either, and a man like you doesn't lose sleep for himself. There was a pause. Jaemin shifted his weight. Emma saw the top of his head tilt 1/2 degree the other way, the listening tilt. He was listening to Yuna the way he had listened at those 3 dinners. You should go, he said. His voice was flat now. Not the soft one, the flat one. Emma had heard the flat one used on men who worked for him. She had never heard it used on her. That was the small mercy she had counted for 6 years. He had never used the flat voice on her. I will go, Yuna said, in a minute. Now, Jaemin. Now, Yuna. Emma watched the blonde take 1/2 a step closer to him, not toward him, alongside him, so they were shoulder to shoulder and could speak lower, and no old woman on the bench would look up. I did not come to fight with you. I know why you came. Then say it. Say what? Say that you know I still care what happens to you. Emma felt something shift in her chest that was not a break. It was worse than a break. It was a slow unlocking. A door she had been holding shut with her body was easing off its latch from the other side, and there was nothing she could do about it because her hands were busy holding a paper bag against her thigh. Jaemin was silent. Say it, Yuna said. You care too much for someone who left. I did not leave you. You left. I moved. There is a difference. He did not answer that. Emma pressed her forehead very lightly against the column. The marble was cool on her skin. She kept the paper bag at her side. She kept her breath thin. She did not cry. She did not cry, because if she cried, the sound would carry the same way the voices carried, and the atrium was a well, and the well would betray her. Jaemin. What? I know you didn't marry her because you loved her. Emma's forehead stayed on the column. Do not, Jaemin said. I know you married her because it was clean, because she was outside all of it, because your father was still alive and he wanted a clean face at the table. Do not. I am not asking you to do anything. Then why are you here? To see it in your face when I say it. Emma opened her eyes on the veining of the marble. The veins were not tea-colored. They were the color of dried blood held up to a lamp. She had not noticed until now. She had a strange thought. She thought, I will never be able to look at cream marble again. And then she pushed the thought away, because thoughts like that were what would make her cry, and she could not cry yet. Below, Jaemin did not answer. Yuna said, There. I saw it. You saw nothing. I saw it, Jaemin. He turned then. Only a quarter turn, but Emma saw it from above, the shoulder pulling back, the neck lifting, the dragon tattoo catching a bar of light from the ceiling for a half second, and then losing it again. He was preparing to walk away from Yuna. Emma knew that motion. She had watched him do it to lawyers and to cousins, and to men who had come to her house with stiff smiles. Yuna spoke again, before he could complete the turn. I brought you something. He stopped. I don't want anything from you. You'll want this. Emma saw the blonde reach into the small bone-white clutch, pointed nude nails. A folded piece of paper came out. Ordinary paper, folded twice, small enough to sit in the palm. Yuna held it out to him at her side, waist level, so no one across the atrium would see the exchange. Her hand did not tremble. He did not take it. Take it, Jaemin. Put it back in your bag. Take it and read it later. Not here. I said, put it back. You will want to have read it. Yuna. She lifted his wrist with 2 fingers. Emma saw that. She saw the blonde touch his wrist with 2 fingers and turn his hand palm up and set the folded paper into his palm and close his fingers over it. It took less than 3 seconds. Then Yuna stepped back, brushed her own hand once against the ivory blazer, and looked up. Not up at the escalators, up at the mezzanine. Up. Emma pulled back behind the column so fast the paper bag rustled once against her hip. The rustle was tiny. She could not tell if it had traveled. She stayed pressed to the marble with her heart in her ears. She counted to 5. She counted to 10. Then she leaned back just enough to see through the slit. Yuna was already walking away. She walked the way she had come, past the fountain that did not run, past the marble bench with the old women, toward the wide corridor that led to the parking elevators. She did not look back. Her ivory suit disappeared into a knot of shoppers and then reappeared, smaller, farther, and then it was gone. Jaemin did not move. He stood with his fist closed around the folded paper. He did not look at it. He did not open his fingers. He stared at the space where Yuna had been for the length of a slow breath. Then he looked down at his hand. Then, very carefully, without unfolding it, he slid the paper into the inside pocket of his charcoal jacket, the pocket over his heart, and pressed the outside of the jacket flat against his chest with his palm. Emma watched the hand press flat. She watched the hand stay flat 1 heartbeat too long. Then she watched Jaemin lift his eyes. He did not look at the corridor Yuna had taken. He did not look at his phone. He did not look at the fountain. He looked up. He looked up at the mezzanine, along the railing, one slow sweep from the escalators toward the far corner. the corner where the ambient music thinned, the corner with the column. Emma held still. She held so still she could feel her pulse in the roof of her mouth. She was behind the column. She was behind the column entirely. Only her paper bag might have edged out. She looked down. The paper bag was tucked against her thigh. The ribbon was inside her fist. Damon's eyes moved over the column. They did not stop. They moved past. They kept sweeping, slower now, along the railing, back the other way, patient the way he was patient, when he was looking for a thing he did not want to admit he was looking for. Emma breathed once, silently, through her mouth. He did not find her. He lowered his eyes at last. He touched the front of his jacket again, over the pocket, over the paper. He turned. He walked, unhurried, toward the escalator that came up to the mezzanine, and he stepped onto it with his overcoat still folded over his arm. He was coming up. Emma stepped away from the column. She did not run. She was not the kind of woman who ran in a mall. She walked along the mezzanine on the opposite side from the escalator he was on, at a wife's pace, with her paper bag on her wrist and her phone in her free hand. She passed a jewelry window without seeing the jewelry. She passed a shoe window. She passed the entrance of a store she had never heard of. Her heels sounded normal on the marble. Her spine sounded normal in her back. Her face, if a camera had caught it, would have looked like the face of any wife who had spent 20 minutes buying a silk scarf. Only her hand on the paper bag had gone bloodless. She reached a bench outside a bookstore and sat. She did not sit because her legs wanted to sit. She sat because a woman who had just heard what she had just heard could not stand under a glass ceiling in a cream midi dress without her body eventually telling on her. She sat, and she crossed her ankles the way she had been taught to cross them, and she set the paper bag on her lap, and she rested her hand over the paper bag, and she looked at nothing. I only need to hear one thing. Just one. The sentence came back to her the way sentences come back when they have been answered in a way you did not want. She had heard the one thing. She had heard several. She had heard her name not spoken. She had heard another woman's name spoken twice, softly, the way he had never said her own. She had heard him say he had married her because it was clean. She had not heard him deny it. She had heard him press a folded paper against the pocket over his heart. She lowered her eyes to her ring. The stone caught a piece of the ivory light from the ceiling and held it. It had been chosen by his mother. She had said yes to the stone before she had said yes to him, and she had known that then, and she had said yes anyway. At the top of the escalator, 20 meters away, she caught sight of the top of a jet-black undercut cresting into view. Emma stood up. She did not stand up to run. She stood up because she had one decision left in her, and she wanted to be on her feet when she made it. The lens of a teenager 2 benches over turned toward her without her seeing, drawn by nothing yet, only by the shape of a beautiful black woman rising from a bench with a paper bag in her hand and a stillness in her face that did not belong at a mall. Emma did not see the teenager. She saw the marble column, and she measured it with her eyes the way a swimmer measures the last stretch of a lane. 4 steps, maybe 5. The column stood at the corner where the mezzanine bent toward the atrium's void, and behind it the wall dropped straight to the floor below, carrying sound with it like a chute. She had felt that acoustic pocket earlier without knowing what it was. Now she knew. She walked. The paper bag with the small silk scarf tapped against her thigh at every step, a soft rhythm that did not match her pulse. The pulse was faster. The bag was slower. Between the two, her body existed as a lie, calm on the outside, running on the inside. She reached the column and stepped behind it. The marble was cold against her shoulder. She pressed her back to it and turned her head, one ear angled downward, the way a woman listens for a child in another room. The ambient music thinned here into a hush, as if the architect had wanted a place for people to hide and hear. Below her, Jamin stood with his hand in the pocket of his charcoal suit. and his head tilted at the exact degree he tilted it when he was interested. Emma knew that degree. She had studied it across 3 years of dinners and mornings and long silences. 2 more degrees and he was bored. 2 less and he was angry. This tilt was interest. Una spoke first. Emma did not catch the sentence in full, only the last word, delivered in a laugh that was not really a laugh. Patience. Patience is expensive, Jamin said. You've always been able to afford it. Not lately. There was a pause. Emma pressed her palm flat to the column, as if the stone could hold her upright by contract. Sometimes, Jamin said, and his voice arrived to her clean, the atrium, bringing it up polished. I think I married the wrong woman. Emma's mouth opened. Nothing came out. Her hand slid up the marble 1/2 inch and stopped. She breaks over nothing, he went on, and there was no cruelty in the tone, which was the worst part. It was tired. It was the tone a man used when he had said a sentence to himself many nights, and had finally trusted a stranger with it. Being married to her is walking on glass. She clamped her hand over her mouth. She did it fast, and she did it hard, the heel of her palm against her teeth, and she felt the metal of a small ring on her finger click against enamel. She held. She did not breathe out. Breathing out would produce a sound, and the atrium would carry the sound down to him, the same way it had carried his voice up to her, and she would not give him that. Not yet. Not here. Her knees went first. She did not fall. She slid. The column was tall and cool, and her back went down it in one long, deliberate scrape, cream fabric catching against veins in the marble, until she was crouched behind it, knees drawn up, one hand still over her mouth, the other flat on the polished floor for balance. Her shoulders shook once. She stopped them. They shook again. She stopped them again. Below, Una reached into her small bone-white clutch. She pulled out a folded paper, not a note, not a card, a folded thing, cream, creased twice, the kind of paper an architect used for a small sketch or a route. She held it between 2 fingers with pointed nude nails and offered it to him at the level of his chest. Keep it, Una said. You'll understand. Jamin did not take it right away. He looked at her hand. He looked at the paper. He looked at her face. Then he took it, folded it once more without opening it, and slid it into the inside pocket of his suit jacket, over the heart, the way a man puts away something he intends to read alone. Una did not smile. She did not touch him. She turned on the ball of one nude pointed pump and walked toward the escalator on the far side of the atrium, the ivory suit catching the overhead light in small pale flashes, the blunt platinum bob swinging once at her shoulder line and then settling. She did not look back. She did not need to. Emma, behind the column, understood 2 things at once. She understood that her husband had said what he said to a stranger, and she understood that the stranger had known he would say it, had come here to collect it, the way a person came to collect a receipt from a machine. Neither understanding helped her stand up. She stayed crouched. She stared at the seam where the marble floor met the marble base of the column, and she counted the seams. There were 6 she could see. She counted them twice. On the 3rd count, she noticed her paper bag had tipped over next to her hip, and the small silk scarf inside had begun to slide out, pale peach against the white floor, a small tongue of color she did not remember buying. Below her, Jamin looked up. He did not look up because he had heard her. He looked up because he had felt her, the way a hunter felt the eyes of the animal he had been trying to name. His face lifted toward the mezzanine, and his gaze found the corner and the column, and then, because the angle was cruel, he saw her. He saw her hand over her mouth. He saw the crumpled cream fabric bunched at her thighs. He saw her hair, the center part he had watched her make that morning in the bedroom mirror, falling forward over one cheek, and he saw the paper bag on its side, and the peach scarf half out of it like something bleeding. His composure cracked. It cracked in one place, small, along his jawline, a tightening that pulled the neck tattoo of the dragon into sudden visibility above his collar, black scales catching the atrium light. His hand came out of his pocket. It did not know where to go. It hovered at his side. "Emma," he said. He said it in a voice that did not reach her the way his other voice had. He said it low. The atrium did not carry it up. She saw his mouth make the shape of her name more than she heard the sound. That was worse. He had discovered the acoustic accident too, and now he was trying to bypass it, trying to speak to her privately in a public room. She stood up. She stood up in one motion, not slow, not fast, and she left the shelter of the column. She left the paper bag on the floor. She left the peach scarf where it had tumbled. She walked to the mezzanine railing with the same posture she had put on that morning in the penthouse. Upright, shoulders relaxed, elongated neck, and she placed both hands on the polished brass rail and she looked down. Jamin looked up at her from the atrium floor. They held there, 2 floors apart. The glass ceiling above them threw a soft rectangle of daylight across the marble between them, and inside that rectangle, a woman with a stroller crossed without looking up, and a security guard in a dark suit adjusted his earpiece, and a boy of maybe 9 stared at his phone. None of them knew, none of them ever would know that a marriage had ended on the geometry of a room built to sell handbags. "Come down," Jamin said. He said it louder this time, loud enough that the woman with the stroller lifted her head, loud enough that a couple stepping off the escalator paused, loud enough that behind Emma, at a bench near the boutique, the teenager with the phone turned in her seat and lifted the phone higher without pretending anymore. Emma did not move. She kept her hands on the brass rail. She let him look at her. She let him see what she looked like from below, from the exact angle from which he had let a stranger see him, and she said nothing. Silence, she was learning, could be louder than a scream if the room was built for sound. Jamin took 1 step toward the escalator. He stopped. He looked at his hand as if he had forgotten it belonged to him, and then he looked at the pocket of his jacket where the folded paper now rested against his ribs. He touched the pocket. Not a pat, a press. The way a man confirmed the weight of a coin before betting it. "Emma," he said again. Behind him, at the far end of the atrium, Yuna had reached the base of the down escalator on the opposite side. She stepped onto it. She rode down, chin lifted, one hand loose on the moving rubber rail, the ivory suit sliding away into the lower floor like a page turning. She did not look back once. She had done what she had been paid to do, though Emma did not yet know that word. Paid, did not know the shape of the transaction that had just been closed under her feet. Emma noticed only that the woman left calm. That was information. Calm was information. The lens of the teenager, quiet at Emma's back, tracked upward and steadied on Emma's profile. The girl did not know who Emma was. She did not know who Jamin was. She knew only that a beautiful black woman in a cream dress had gone behind a column 10 minutes ago in an ordinary posture and had come out of it in a posture that was not ordinary at all, and that a man in a charcoal suit was standing 2 floors below her, calling her name, in a voice that was breaking in small places. The girl pressed record with the pad of her thumb and did not press stop. Emma took her hands off the rail. She did it slowly. She looked at her palms first, the small red lines the brass had pressed into the skin, and then she looked at her left hand, at the platinum band on her 4th finger. She did not touch it. She did not turn it. She looked at it the way a person looked at a door before deciding. Then she turned and walked. She did not run. Running was a language the mall would understand incorrectly. She walked at the pace of a woman who had remembered she had another appointment. She stepped over the peach scarf on the floor and did not bend to pick it up. She stepped past the paper bag and did not bend to pick that up either. She walked toward the down escalator on her side of the mezzanine, the side opposite the one Yuna had used, because sharing an escalator with the woman who had folded a paper for her husband, was a thing Emma was not going to do in this lifetime. Below her, Jae-min moved. He crossed the atrium in 6 long strides, cutting through the daylight rectangle without noticing it, and he reached the base of the up escalator on Emma's side 1 second before she reached the top of the down escalator on the same side. The escalators ran parallel. There was a strip of brushed steel between them, the width of a man's shoe. He put his foot on the first step going up. Emma put her foot on the first step going down. They rose and fell past each other in the same second. He was close enough that she could see the small bead of sweat at his temple, the one he never had in meetings, the one he had only when he ran. She was close enough that he could see the water sitting on her lower lash line, not falling yet, held there by discipline and by the angle of her head. Their eyes met. His mouth opened. Hers did not. "Emma," he said, and reached across the steel strip. His fingers grazed the back of her hand. She lifted her hand off the rail and let it fall to her side, out of his reach, before the escalators finished the exchange. The gap between them widened by a step, then by 3, then by 7. He turned on his step, twisting his upper body to keep her in his sight, and she did not turn. She rode down looking straight ahead at the marble atrium floor, at a boy with a helium balloon that had escaped his fist and was drifting up along the far wall toward the glass ceiling, at Yuna's back becoming smaller in the direction of the main entrance. Emma reached the bottom of the escalator. She stepped off. Above her, Jae-min reached the top of his. He stepped off too. He looked over the rail. He saw her at the atrium floor, walking, not fast, not slow, in the direction of nothing in particular. Hands empty, hair falling forward, spine straight. "Emma," he called down. His voice carried this time. It carried across the whole atrium. Heads turned. The security guard with the earpiece touched the earpiece and murmured something into his cuff, less because he understood the situation than because his training required him to note when a man in a $15,000 suit began raising his voice in a Cheongdam-dong mall. Emma did not stop walking. She did not look back. She walked through the atrium and past the Chanel window and past the Cartier window and toward the main revolving door of the mall, and every step she took, she felt one sentence assemble itself in her chest, a sentence she had not composed and was not editing, a sentence that was building itself out of the muscle memory of 31 years of being told, in one way or another, to make herself smaller. The sentence would come out of her mouth in a few minutes. She did not know that yet. She only knew that a woman she had not been 10 minutes ago was walking her body toward the door. Behind her, Jae-min moved for the escalator down. Song Ji-woo appeared at his elbow from a shadow behind a column Emma had not noticed, an earpiece already at his ear, a black-gloved hand already at his boss's arm. Ji-woo said one word. Jae-min pulled his arm away and did not answer. The security guard with the earpiece straightened. The teenager on the mezzanine lowered her phone, checked the screen, checked that the red dot was still blinking, raised the phone again, and followed the woman in the cream dress with the lens all the way to the revolving door. Emma reached the door. She did not push it. The door was automatic. It turned for her the way doors had turned for her all her life, the way rooms opened for beautiful women without asking. She stepped into the revolving glass wedge. The lights of the mall cut into slats across her face. The door completed its half-rotation and set her out on the sidewalk of Apgujeong-ro, into the noise of the street, into the smell of exhaust and cold coffee and expensive perfume from the woman just ahead of her. The woman just ahead of her was Yuna. Yuna was standing at the curb with her small, bone-white clutch tucked against her ribs, waiting for a car that was pulling up, a black sedan with tinted windows and a discreet chrome badge. She did not see Emma. She was already elsewhere in her head, already at the next appointment, already turning the folded paper over in her memory, the way a person turned the receipt for a job well done. Emma stopped on the sidewalk, 6 feet behind her. She looked at Yuna's back, at the platinum bob, at the ivory suit, at the small pearl stud in the ear she could see, and she felt, for the first time since the column, an emotion that was not grief. Grief was still there. Grief was going to be there for a long time. But under the grief, a second thing had appeared, warm and quiet and very steady, and it did not have a name yet, and it did not need one. Behind her, the revolving door turned again. Jae-min stepped out onto the sidewalk. He saw Yuna at the curb. He saw Emma between them. He stopped. The three of them stood in a triangle on Apgujeong Road for one long second. Yuna, back turned, waiting for her car, oblivious. Emma, in the middle, hands empty, breath finally starting to shake, because the marble was gone, and there was no more surface to hold up. Jae-min, 3 steps behind Emma, hand half lifted, mouth open on a name that did not come. The black sedan reached the curb. The driver's door did not open. The back door opened from the inside. Yuna bent at the waist, slid in, tucked one leg after the other, and pulled the door shut behind her without ever turning her head. The sedan pulled away into traffic and merged and disappeared past a delivery truck in under 4 seconds. Emma watched the sedan go. Then she turned her head, slowly, and looked over her shoulder at her husband. He was closer than she had thought. 2 steps, not 3. Close enough that she could see the shape of the folded paper through the fine wool of his jacket, a small square lump over his heart. Close enough that she could see the platinum wedding band on his hand, and the sweat on his temple, and the dragon on his neck, and the exact moment when his eyes registered, for the first time in the 3 years he had known her, that the woman standing in front of him was not the woman he had been walking on glass with. "Emma," he said, "quiet now, all the atrium volume gone. Come inside, please." Emma looked at him for a long moment, long enough that the light changed at the crosswalk behind him, and a wave of pedestrians moved past them in both directions, brushing shoulders, murmuring apologies, none of them looking twice. Then she opened her mouth. "Say it again," she said, "to my face." Her voice was low and level, and the sidewalk did not carry it far, but he heard every word. He heard the color drain out of her sentence like water out of a glass, and he understood, 1 full second before she took her next breath, that the moment he had just spent inside a mall's marble column had followed him out onto the street, and that it was not going to stay there. It was going to grow. Behind him, through the revolving door, the security guard was speaking into his cuff again. Above them, 1 floor up, the teenager with the phone had come to the mezzanine window and was filming down through the glass. Beside them, at the crosswalk, a delivery man on a scooter had stopped with 1 foot on the ground because a beautiful black woman was standing very still on the sidewalk of Apgujeong Road, and a Korean man in a charcoal suit was standing 2 steps behind her, and something about the geometry of the two of them made him not want to move on yet. Emma took 1 step toward Jae-min. Not away, toward. She lifted her chin. "Loud enough," she said, "for everyone to hear." The escalator carried Jae-min upward too slowly for the man he had just become. He took the steps 2 at a time, the folded paper still in his inside pocket, burning a shape against his ribs, and he did not look at the security guard who tried to step aside for him. He looked only at her. Emma stood at the top of the mezzanine with her hand on the marble rail. She was not running. She was not crying. She was standing very still, the way a woman stands when the thing she was afraid of has already happened and there is nothing left to be afraid of. He reached the top and put out his hand. She stepped back. It was 1 step, small, the kind of step a woman takes when she is measuring a distance she does not intend to cross again. Her nude pump made no sound on the marble. The paper bag from the boutique swung once at her wrist and went still. Emma. She did not look at his face. She looked at his hand. The hand still held out in the air between them like a bridge no one had asked for. "Not here," he said. She lifted her eyes then. The mall's glass ceiling threw a wide, pale light across the mezzanine, and in that light her face was very quiet. Her lashes were wet at the roots, but the tears had not fallen. Not yet. She was holding them the way she had held everything else for 2 years. "Not here," she repeated. Her voice was low. It was almost a whisper. It was the last quiet thing she would say for a long time. Then she took a breath, and she chose the ground. "Say it again," she said. The words were not loud. Not yet. But the woman at the perfume counter 3 meters away turned her head. The security guard at the top of the escalator went still. "Emma, please. Say it again. Louder now. Not a shout. A sentence with all the give taken out of it, to my face." Jamin's jaw moved. Nothing came out. Below the mezzanine, in the 2-floor atrium, the ambient piano had reached one of its softer passages. Emma's voice cut through it, like a blade slid slowly across paper. "Loud enough," she said, "for everyone to hear." The Chanel salesgirl behind the glass counter looked up. The couple examining watches at Cartier stopped examining watches. A woman on the ground floor by the fountain froze with her coffee halfway to her mouth. 2 teenage girls near the escalator lifted their phones at the same moment, as if a signal had been passed between them without a word. Jamin took 1 step forward. She did not move. "You don't want to do this here." "I don't want to do a lot of things," Emma said. "But here we are." Her voice was clear now. It carried across the marble, up the glass, along the polished rail, down the escalators to the men in dark suits stationed at the exits, and it kept going. She was not screaming. Screaming would have made her small. What she was doing was worse for him. She was speaking. "You said," she began, and paused, just long enough that the whole mezzanine leaned in. "You said you married the wrong woman." A single intake of breath from somewhere behind him. A staff radio somewhere crackled and went silent. "You said being married to me is walking on glass." 2 more phones came up. "You said I break over nothing." She was counting them, each one placed on the marble between them like a stone laid at a grave. "You said all of that," she went on, "to a woman I had never met, in a mall, on a Tuesday, while I stood 10 meters above your head with a paper bag in my hand." Jamin's hand closed at his side. The platinum band caught the light. "Emma." "You said it soft," she said. "You said it like it was a secret, like the secret was mine, like I had done something so unbearable that the only way to survive me was to whisper about me to a stranger in ivory." The Cartier salesgirl brought both hands to her mouth. "Emma, please, come with me. We'll talk. We are talking." Her voice climbed 1 step. Not a shout, a dais. "I have been trying to talk to you for 2 years. I have been talking to your back. I have been talking to a phone you didn't answer. I have been talking to the wall behind your side of the bed. Now I am talking to your face, and the whole city is listening, and you want me to be quiet." Somewhere below, a woman said, in Korean, "Oh my God, oh my God." Jamin tried a different weapon, softness. He lowered his voice. He stepped forward again, slowly, the way a man approaches a horse. "You misunderstood." Emma laughed. It was a short laugh. It was not amused. It was the laugh of a woman who had been given, in a public place, a lie so old and so tired, she almost felt sorry for it. "Misunderstood." She rolled the word around. "I misunderstood." She turned her head slightly toward the crowd, as if inviting them to weigh the word with her. Every woman standing here has heard that word before. Every one of them knows what it means. A murmur rippled along the mezzanine. 2 of the phones angled closer. "It means," Emma said, "that you would rather I doubt my own ears than doubt you." Jamin's face did something she had not seen it do in 2 years. It cracked. It was a small crack, a tightening at the temple, a twitch at the mouth, but she saw it, and because she saw it, she went on. You said I break over nothing. She was not looking at the crowd anymore. She was looking only at him. Do you know what I break over, Jaemin? I break over silence. I break over the way you drink your coffee cold, rather than share the morning with me. I break over your phone, turned face down. I break over the smell of a perfume that isn't mine on your coat in November. I break over the way you say my name like it costs you. He shut his eyes for 1 second. When he opened them, there was something like a plea in them. He had not shown her a plea in a long time. It came too late. Not here, he said again. Weaker. Please. She lifted her chin. You had a mall's worth of quiet places to whisper about your wife. You chose this floor. You chose this hour. You chose that woman. You do not get to choose the volume now. She took a step toward him. Only one. Just enough that he could not pretend the space between them was the size of a private conversation. You are a coward, she said. The word landed on the marble like a coin. You are a coward with a beautiful suit, and a beautiful watch, and a beautiful apartment, and you are a coward in all of them. You are a coward in the elevator when you lie about your phone. You are a coward in the bathroom when you send me up an escalator so you can meet another woman under the glass ceiling. You are a coward on a Tuesday afternoon, in front of your own reflection in every window on this floor. She was not shouting. She was placing each word. You are a coward, she said again, softer. And I loved you anyway. For 2 years, I loved you anyway. I have spent my whole marriage translating your silence into something I could survive. I have taught myself to eat cold breakfasts and call it patience. I have taught myself to see a woman's name on your screen and call it business. I have taught myself to walk 5 paces behind your composure and call it grace. She drew a breath, slow. I am done teaching myself. Her right hand moved. It was a small motion. Anyone not watching would have missed it. She slid her thumb up under the platinum band on her 4th finger and turned it, once, the way she had turned it 1,000 times at kitchen counters and dinner tables and hospital waiting rooms and airport gates. The gold caught the light. Then she lifted it. The ring came off cleanly, it always had. She took the last step. She reached out. He did not lift his hand to meet hers. He did not have to. She reached down and took his wrist. For the first time in months, her fingers on his skin, turned his palm face up between them, and placed the ring in the center of it. The platinum clicked softly against the platinum of his own band. Keep it, she said. His fingers did not close. His hand stayed open, palm up, as if he had forgotten what hands were for. Emma stepped back once, then again, not far, just far enough to be in the frame of every phone that was watching. I will not be the woman hidden, she said. Silence. I will not be the woman diminished. The teenage girl's phones tilted. I will not be the woman compared. Somewhere on the ground floor, a glass slipped from a hand and broke. Nobody moved to clean it. You wanted a wife you could whisper about, Emma said. Whisper about someone else. She turned. She turned the way she had learned to turn in her mother's living room when she was 17. Chin first, shoulders following, hips carrying the rest, the neck long. But she turned like a woman who had been rehearsing this walk since she was a girl and had only ever hoped she would not have to use it. She began to walk. The mezzanine parted for her. It was not a dramatic parting. There was no music swell. There was only a small backward shuffle of shoppers who had been standing in her path. A woman in a fur coat took a half step to the right. A man with 2 Louis Vuitton bags stepped left without looking at his shoes. A girl in a school uniform pressed her back to the glass of a display window to give more room than was strictly necessary. Emma walked between them at an even pace. The paper bag from the boutique swung once at her wrist. She did not look back. Behind her, Jae-min stood at the top of the escalator with his palm open. The ring sat in the exact center of it. Nobody spoke to him. Nobody moved toward him. Two of his men, in dark suits with earpieces, took one step forward from the shadow of a marble column, saw his face, and stepped back. The mall kept filming. Emma reached the down escalator. She placed her hand on the rail. She stepped on. The steel treads carried her downward at their patient speed, and as she descended, the crowd on the mezzanine watched her disappear, inch by inch. First her shoulders below the line of the rail, then the crown of her head, then a last flash of dark hair against cream fabric, and then she was gone from the upper floor. On the ground level, she stepped off the escalator without a hitch of her heel. She adjusted the strap of the camel bag on her forearm. She crossed the marble atrium under the glass ceiling, walking past the fountain, past the perfume clouds drifting out of the flagship boutique, past the doorman who did not know what to do with his gloved hand except lift it toward the door. She did not tip her head to thank him. She had spent 2 years being gracious. She was done being gracious for today. The door swung open. Cheongdam-dong's sunlight fell across her cream dress in a hard, clean strip. She stepped through it. The last thing the phones on the mezzanine caught, before the automatic door slid shut behind her, was her back, the long line of her neck, the shine of her hair, the swing of the paper bag, walking into the street as if she had somewhere to go. The lens tilted. It found Jae-min again. He had not moved. He was still standing at the top of the escalator with his palm open. Someone on the ground floor whispered, in Korean, "Is that him? Is that Ash?" Someone else whispered back, "Don't say his name out loud." Ji-woo appeared from behind a column. He must have been there the whole time. He stopped 1 meter from Jae-min and did not speak. He waited. He was a man whose whole profession was knowing when not to speak. Jae-min looked down at the ring in his hand. He looked at his own wedding band on his finger, next to it. 2 rings. One on his hand, one in his palm. His fingers closed. Not around the ring, around nothing, around air. The way a man closes his fist when he has just understood something he cannot say out loud in front of witnesses. Then, without a sound, he turned. He walked past Ji-woo, past the marble column, past the shocked salesgirls behind their glass counters, past every phone that was still filming him. He walked with the same composure he had worn into the mall, but the composure was hollow now. It was a suit. It fit him wrong. By the time he reached the service corridor and the door swung shut behind him, the first clip was already uploading. Somewhere in Gangnam, a teenage girl was tapping her thumb across a screen and writing a caption that would be translated into 40 languages before the end of the week. Somewhere in a black car idling at the curb of Cheongdam-dairo, a driver was watching Emma cross the sidewalk in her cream dress and camel bag with her chin up, and he was reaching to open the back door for her without having been asked. Somewhere in a private lounge on the 2nd floor of the same mall, Yoona Choi was lifting a small espresso cup toward her mouth. Her platinum bob caught the light. Her phone lay face up on the table beside her. It had just buzzed. A video preview flickered across the screen. She watched it once, and set the cup back down without drinking. Her mouth did something at the corner that was not quite a smile. She reached under the table, took a slim black phone from the inside pocket of her ivory jacket, a phone Jae-min had never seen, and lifted it to her ear. "It's done," she said, in Korean. "Faster than we planned." She listened. "No," she said. "He didn't open the paper. Not yet." She listened again. "Give him a week," she said. "He'll open it when the silence starts to burn. That's when he'll come to me." She hung up. She lifted the espresso cup a second time. This time she drank. Above her, on the mezzanine, Emma's ring was still traveling. Jae-min had walked out of the mall with his hand closed around it, but the metal against his palm was warm now, warm with the last heat of her finger, and every step he took, he could feel exactly where on his skin she had touched him. He reached his car. His driver opened the door. He got in. He did not tell the driver where to go. He sat with the ring in one fist and the folded paper in his inside pocket, and he stared at the leather in front of him. The car did not move. Jiwoo slid into the passenger seat. "Boss." Jae-min did not answer. "Boss," Jiwoo said again. "The video is already up. 3 accounts, 2 of them Korean, 1 American. It's spreading." Jae-min opened his hand. The ring lay on his palm, small, warm, bright. "Take me home," he said. It was the first thing he had said since she walked away. His voice was flat, low, unrecognizable. Jiwoo turned to the driver and nodded once. The car pulled from the curb. At the top of the mall's mezzanine, marble stayed marble. The shoppers began, tentatively, to speak again. The Chanel salesgirl went back behind her counter. The couple at Cartier picked up the watch they had been examining and pretended to examine it. The teenage girls with the phones were already sending files to each other, giggling under their hands, the way girls giggle when they know they have caught something bigger than themselves. The paper bag Emma had been carrying had a small silk scarf inside it. She had bought it that morning as a gift for him. It had cost more than most people made in a week. It was still in her hand when she got into the car. She looked down at it once. She did not open the bag. She did not throw it out. She placed it gently on the seat beside her, the way one places a wreath. The driver, who had worked for Jae-min for 6 years and had never once spoken to her without being addressed first, met her eyes in the rearview mirror. "Madam, where would you like to go?" Emma looked out the window at Cheongdam-dong sliding past, at the marble and glass and the long, clean cars, and the women in coats she used to envy. "The airport," she said. The driver hesitated only a second. Then he nodded once and turned the wheel. The car took the ramp onto the expressway. The city began to fall away behind her. She did not look back at it. She sat very upright in the leather seat with her hands folded in her lap, and for the first time in 2 years, there was no ring on her finger to turn. Her phone buzzed. She did not look at it. It buzzed again. She reached into the camel bag, took the phone out, and without unlocking it, pressed the power button until the screen went black. She placed the phone face down on the seat beside the paper bag. Then, and only then, she let herself close her eyes. A single tear slid from under one lash. It ran the length of her cheekbone and disappeared under her jaw before she lifted a knuckle to catch it. She did not sob. She did not shake. She simply sat and let it happen, one tear, then another, in silence, while the expressway lights began to click past the window in their long, even rhythm. She had walked out of the mall with her chin up. She would land in Manhattan with it still up. But right now, in the back of the car she was leaving him in, she gave herself the smallest permission she had given herself in 2 years. She let the tears come. She did not name them. She did not stop them. She let them fall. The driver said nothing. He drove. Behind them, in a penthouse she would never sleep in again, a house cleaner was already lifting the folded silk of Jae-min's suits from the bedroom chair, unaware that by morning she would be folding them alone. And on a black phone in a private lounge in Cheongdam-dong, Yoona Choi was watching the airport-bound car on a small blinking dot on a map, and this time she did smile. Jiwoo laid the folder on the desk without speaking. He knew better than to speak first in this office at this hour. He set the folder square with the edge of the black glass desktop, stepped back 1 pace, and folded his gloved hands in front of him. Han Jae-min did not turn from the window. The Seoul skyline lay flat under him like a circuit board, red pulses climbing the towers, the river a black cut between them. He had been standing there since 10. It was almost 1. His overcoat was still folded across the arm of the couch where he had dropped it when he came in from the airport. He had not eaten. He had not asked for anyone. Ji-woo had been the only one allowed past the door for 3 weeks. "Read it to me," Jae-min said. "Boss, read it." Ji-woo opened the folder. He did not clear his throat. He had learned, over 11 years, not to soften anything for this man. Yoona Choi, payroll of the Bak clan, confirmed by 2 separate handlers. First payment, 9 months ago. Monthly cash drops through the Gangnam laundry route. Jae-min did not move. Second page, surveillance of your wife. Route to the Pilates studio. Route to the bakery on Dosan-dairo. Times she left the penthouse alone. Times she came back. Times you were away. Photographs of the doorman. Photographs of the elevator hallway. He turned a page. Third page, the schematic. This is what was folded in the paper Yoona handed you at the mall. Ji-woo set the schematic on the desk. It was drawn in a woman's small, clean hand. A ground plan of the mall. A red circle at the atrium. A red circle at the escalator. A red circle at the mezzanine railing. An arrow to the corner behind the marble column. A note in the margin, in Korean. Ji-woo did not need to read it aloud. Jae-min could read it from the window with his back turned. He had known the handwriting for 11 years too. The plan, Ji-woo said, was for her to hear you. That specific corner was chosen because the ambient music thins there. It is a dead pocket. Voices carry from the atrium, clear as glass. Yoona knew this. Jae-min put one hand against the window. He left it there. They wanted to break her, Ji-woo said. Not you, her. Because she was the only thing you would not put a bodyguard on. Because you told everyone she was untouchable. Because the only way inside your walls was through the door you had left open for her. The city breathed under Jae-min's palm. Where is she? Ji-woo did not answer immediately. Where is she, Ji-woo? Her phone was disconnected the night of the mall. The penthouse was cleared within 40 hours. The doorman confirms she took 2 suitcases. Kim, the driver, drove her to Incheon. She flew coach. She did not fly on any of your accounts. She paid cash. Where? New York. Jae-min closed his eyes. Address. Boss. Address Ji-woo. She asked us not to look. Jae-min turned then. Ji-woo held his gaze the way a man holds a live wire. Hands steady, jaw set. She left a note with the doorman, Ji-woo said. For you, I did not open it. It has been in my inside pocket for 3 weeks. I was waiting for the file to be complete before I gave it to you, so you would open it knowing everything. He drew the envelope out with 2 fingers. He put it on the desk on top of the schematic. Cream envelope, Emma's hand on the front, just his name, Jae-min. He did not move for a long time. Leave. Ji-woo left. The door closed on soft hinges. Jae-min stayed at the window. Then he crossed the room to the desk in 6 steps and stood over the envelope without touching it. Then he sat. Then he opened it. 1 sheet, 2 lines. You did not cheat with your body. You cheated with your tongue. I heard the man I chose call our marriage walking on glass in front of a woman who was paid to break it. She only opened the door. You walked through. Do not look for me. If you loved me, prove it by letting me go. He read it twice. Then a 3rd time, he set the sheet down. He placed his palm flat over it. He did not weep. Men like Han Jae-min did not weep in offices at 1 in the morning with the door unlocked. He simply sat there with his hand on the paper and his eyes closed, and behind his eyes he saw the mall, the mezzanine, the marble column, the woman curled above him on the floor with her hand clamped over her mouth, and he understood, all at once, what Emma had understood in a single afternoon and he had not understood in 11 weeks. She had heard the truth, and the truth was that his pride had rehearsed cruelty out loud, in public, to a woman who had come to weaponize it, and he had performed on cue. He had killed his marriage with his own tongue. Yuna had only handed him the stage. He picked up the schematic. He looked at the small, clean handwriting in the margin. He tore the schematic in half. He tore the halves in half. He tore the quarters into strips. He kept tearing until the strips were pieces the size of his thumbnail, and then he dropped the pieces into the black glass ashtray at the corner of the desk, and then he lit them with the silver lighter he had carried for 15 years, and he watched them burn. The room smelled of paper and ink and cold ash. He watched the fire go down. He watched the pieces curl and blacken. When there was nothing left but gray powder, he pushed himself away from the desk. He walked to the wall safe behind the Rothko print. He turned the dial. He took out a small square velvet box. He opened it. Emma's ring lay on the black cushion, catching the desk lamp, the platinum band, and the round diamond, and the 2 smaller stones at the shoulders. The ring she had placed in his palm, at the mall, in front of the whole crowd. He had carried it in this safe for 3 weeks and had not been able to look at it. He looked at it now. He closed the box. He put it in the drawer of his desk. He shut the drawer. He turned the little brass key in the drawer's lock. He put the key in his inside pocket next to his heart and left it there. Then, for the first time in 3 weeks, he slept. Months later, on a Thursday in October, warm rain fell on 24th Street in Chelsea and did not thin the crowd. The gallery was called Anand and Row. The front window burned honey gold against the wet dark, and inside the honey gold, you could see people moving between tall canvases, laughing, tipping wine, leaning in close to read little cards on the wall. Emma Davis stood at the far end of the room in a fitted black dress that fell to just below the knee, hair down in defined waves past her shoulders, small diamond studs at her ears, no ring on her left hand. Her collarbone caught the warm light. Her posture was upright. Her shoulders were down. Her neck was long. She was laughing at something a young painter had just said, and the laugh was quiet, and it belonged to her. Priya Anand crossed the room to her in the emerald silk dress, silver bangles at the wrist, red lipstick, silver-streaked hair in the low chignon. She kissed Emma on the cheek and left one hand on Emma's forearm. "You look happy," Priya said. Emma looked at her a moment before answering. She was learning to stop apologizing for good moments. "I finally am," she said. "Marcus is looking at you across the room like you invented the color blue." Emma laughed. "Don't tell him that." Too late. Priya squeezed her arm and glided off toward a collector by the door. Emma took a slow breath and let it out. The gallery smelled of wet coats and old wood and someone's rosewater perfume near the drinks table. Somewhere behind her, a saxophone slid low over a standard she half knew. She turned toward the drinks table because that was where he would be. Marcus Whitfield was there in the charcoal turtleneck under the gray blazer, the tailored gray trousers, the black Chelsea boots, the shoulders broad, the beard short and neat, the low fade sharp at the temple. He was talking to an older man about a painting on the far wall, one hand loose at his side, the other holding a glass of red he had not sipped from in 10 minutes. He turned when Emma was still 2 steps away, because he always turned when she was still 2 steps away, and his face did the thing it did. A slow, quiet smile that did not open all the way, that stayed for her, that stayed only for her. She came in close and leaned into his shoulder. Only then did his hand move to the small of her back. Only after she leaned. That was the rule they had settled without ever speaking it aloud. "You're tired," he said. "A little. We can go." "Not yet. I want to see the room after it clears. Then we stay." He did not push. He never pushed. She had spent 11 years being pushed by a hand that pretended to be gentle, and she had learned, in the 6 months since Seoul, the difference between a hand that pretended and a hand that waited. Marcus's hand waited. "Priya says you're looking at me like I invented the color blue." He looked down at her, mouth tugged. "Priya is a menace." She is right, though. Priya is always right. Emma laughed. She rested her forehead against the point of his shoulder for the length of one breath, then straightened. A woman across the room called her name, the buyer for the corner canvas, and Emma stepped away, and Marcus watched her walk, and he did not follow, and he did not need to. She had built this life in 6 months, on the far side of a broken ocean, and she had built it small on purpose. A 1-bedroom on the ground floor of a brownstone in Fort Greene. A part-time job cataloging for Priya 3 days a week. A yoga class on Tuesday nights. A therapist on Fridays. A single friend, Zara, from the class, who called her twice a week to ask what she had eaten. She had been introduced to Marcus at a group dinner at Priya's 4 months ago. He was a civil rights attorney and a widower, and he had said hello to her the way a man says hello to a person, not the way a man says hello to a project. She had told him, on the 3rd dinner, in a low voice at the corner of a bar, exactly what had happened to her in Seoul. She had wanted to see him flinch. He had not flinched. He had said, only, "You did the right thing." And then he had ordered her another glass of water, because she was not drinking wine that week. And then he had walked her home, and left her at her door, and she had cried for a full hour afterward, not because of him, but because of what it meant that a man had listened to that story and not tried to solve her. She had not been solved. She had been left alone with the wound, and the wound had closed. Across the ocean, at that same hour, dawn was breaking gray over the Han River. Han Jae-min sat at his desk in the Seoul office with his phone on the black glass in front of him. He had not slept. He had come in at 3 and stayed. The overcoat was on the couch. The steel-cased watch on his wrist ticked past 6. He was scrolling, slowly, through a stranger's Instagram feed. The stranger was a photographer he had never met named Leah, a friend of Priya's, who had posted, 40 minutes ago, a clip from the opening. 15 seconds. Warm light, low jazz. The camera panned across a wall of canvases and found Emma in the black dress, laughing, and the camera stayed on her for 4 seconds, and in the last 2 seconds, a broad hand appeared at the small of her back, Marcus's hand, and Emma tilted her head against a shoulder that was not Jae-min's. The clip ended and looped. He let it loop 3 times. 4. He did not zoom in. He did not enlarge. He did not curse. He watched her face on the small screen the size of his palm, and he watched the way her shoulders were down, and her neck was long, and her laugh was quiet, and he saw, with the terrible clarity of a man who has finally understood the size of what he threw away, that she was well. She was well without him. She had done what she said she would do in her note. She had loved herself more. He closed the phone. He set it face down on the black glass. He drew the little brass key out of his inside pocket. He turned it in the lock of the drawer. He opened the drawer. He took out the velvet box. He opened it. He looked at her ring for a long time in the gray dawn light. He did not put it on a chain. He did not put it in a safe deposit box. He did not carry it with him. He closed the box. He put the box back in the drawer. He shut the drawer. He turned the brass key. He slid the key across the black glass to the far edge of the desk, where the morning light was reaching, and he left it there for the cleaner to find and put in the small dish by the door. He got up. He put on the overcoat. He went to the window. The city was pale under the first light. Somewhere down there, in a building with fluorescent bulbs, Ji-woo was already awake, waiting on his call. Somewhere in a private lounge in Cheongdam-dong, Yoona Choi was still on the Baek clan's payroll and would be dealt with, quietly, in the manner Ji-woo had already outlined in the second folder that lay untouched on the couch. Somewhere across an ocean, Emma was asleep in a small bed in a ground-floor apartment in Fort Greene, and a man he had never met was awake beside her because he had gone to get her a glass of water without being asked. Jae-min closed his eyes. She cried because she loved too much, but she left because she finally loved herself more. He said it once, in Korean, under his breath, and then he did not say it again. He walked out of the office into the gray morning, and the door closed behind him, and the drawer stayed shut, and the ring stayed inside, and somewhere across the world, a woman in a black dress woke up in a quiet room to the sound of rain on the fire escape, and turned her face toward the light, and smiled at no one, because it was hers, and it was hers alone, and it would never again be given away. If you want to watch all the stories without any ads and also get access to bonus scenes, extended epilogues, and exclusive spicy chapters, head over to our Patreon. Scan the QR code on the screen. The link is in the description or in the pinned comment. See you there. If this story moved you, stop for a moment and reflect. Have you ever dressed with shaking hands to be loved by someone who had already stopped choosing you? Have you ever hidden behind a wall and heard the person you married describe you as the wrong woman? And when the truth finally arrived, did you place the ring in his palm? Or did you keep waiting to be seen? Tell us your experiences and feelings in the comments. We read them all. And if you believe in stories about dignity, self-love, and awakening, leave a like. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and click join to become a part of our community and help the channel.